I want people to grow. I want to see that happen. And if I can be at the forefront of helping people, be positioned, giving people that sort of transparency where they feel like, Martin has generated some of this with AI, and it's been incredible. His openness to sort of thinking about the possibilities and how that can speed up things. And literally the one thing that I will say will come from that will be that consistency that I always bang on about will be a lot easier for people to maintain. And that is a really, really good thing. This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Martin Sully, a brand strategist, designer, and founder of Snapper Studio. And I'm on a mission to help you gain clarity and confidence in your brand. I'll arm you with bite-sized tips and introduce you to friends of the show who are taking their brand to the next level. Machine learning and AI, how are these things going to affect branding over the next sort of 24 months or so? This is a really interesting conversation to have, and particularly because generative AI and the way things have increased over the last 12 months in particular, I don't think people really grasped when it first came around, and started to be used a lot more prevalently in early 2023. So obviously we've been through this last sort of 12 months or so, and yearly I really enjoy doing a bit of a roundup of things that have happened and things that are likely to happen and the impacts that it's going to have on graphic design trends, and more specifically this year, because obviously because I am heavily involved in branding, how everything's going to be impacted, how branding is going to be impacted. So I've got a small list of basically questions that I want to answer myself and have not really spent too much time thinking about, but I've used it as an opportunity to kind of get things off my mind, but also try and word it in a way that what somebody else would come to me with and ask me, and how I kind of see things being impacted. So I want to first start out just by talking a little bit about how AI, and obviously if you don't know what AI is by now, AI is a machine learned set of information that you can basically access and get it to do tasks for you, get it to do some pretty interesting stuff, but there are some limitations, and obviously most people have kind of explored some of those things and how it kind of work, and are trying to work out how it can work and how it can help speed up your day-to-day life, and really kind of get a grasp of what can it actually do for me, what can be done with it. And there's something obviously I've been interested in to find out. So my first experience with generative AI, I got Chat GPT, and I think I might have spoken about it on the podcast. I don't exactly remember, but this was probably 6 to 8 months ago. I tried to get it to do a task for me and to write a blog post. Write me a blog post and how, see what it produced. Was it in my tone of voice? So obviously you need to feed it prompts, and the prompts I gave it were along the lines of, can you write me a blog post about, I can't exactly remember what it was about, but basically you use this specific tone of voice. And I fed it some information that was in my tone of voice that had been taken from a previous blog post, tried to distill it. Anyway, at the time, it couldn't do it. And I believe that since then, if you pay for the subscription version of Chat GPT, you can kind of basically feed it your tone of voice. It's not really my sort of thing. I am not nervous of it. I am skeptical and want it to still, obviously, me being able to sort of introduce my brand to new people and for it to be in my tone of voice. It's something that I need to investigate further, but at the moment, I'm not ready for it. So, I guess the first thing to do is to speak a little bit about what is emotional branding, because it forms a heavy part of the process that I go through, how I develop brands, and how, for the most part, it's the one thing that sets humans from computers. So for me, obviously, this is a big thing that a lot of new businesses and a lot of businesses that have been running for 10 to 15 years may have in the past touched on some of this, but because of its impact often doesn't get thought about quite enough. But it's not that it's a new thing. It's been around for years. Advertising and people in advertising have been playing with your emotions for a very long time. Even as back as far as, the 20s with all the cigarette adverts and things. So what is emotional branding? Effectively, we use emotions in branding to... This is going to sound really bad because it is really bad, but we use it to sell you shit. So there you go. We use it to sell you stuff, and it's and not in a sleazy way. Like if people in branding, if you can do it in a way that isn't sleazy, then do it. Don't be a slime ball. But anyway, like, we as humans need that connection. And that's one of the massive things about, we spoke about it on a few podcasts back when I looked at the deep, dark past of branding, is that openness and transparency, how we don't want to be secret. We don't want to be holding secrets back. We don't want to be the people that are gatekeeping branding as an institution, as an industry. We want to be able to explore it, help it grow, but help it grow in a way that is wholly organic, and that actually you focuses on collaboration and connecting people without all the secrecy, without trying to bend people's emotions and try to sell them things that they don't want, sell them things that they don't need in their lives. That's not good branding. That's just taking advantage of people. Anyway. So we've covered emotional branding, what that can do, how it connects people to your brand. Are there any AI tools that can currently help? Well, from that perspective, I guess you can say there will be, whether they are fully ready to help you develop a brand strategy, to help you develop your brand. You can obviously get AI logos. You can use Photoshop to generate images. You can generate images using Bing. You can generate photos for your business. You can tell it, you can feed it prompts, and you can get images from it. There's a few other bits and pieces like Adobe Illustrator. They have just been sort of working through their range of programs to help designers create imagery and create vector graphics. So vector graphics, for people that don't know what vector graphics are, that is all your logos. So if you can create vector graphics with AI prompts, say Illustrator, can you create me a bird logo? And it will go away and it will create you 3-4 bird logos. You can then obviously feed it a little bit more information, tell it, give it a few more prompts that will kind of start melding it into what your final ideas are. It might be a really cool tool to generate ideas and concepts, and I don't think that's a problem. I think the problem becomes when you aren't being transparent about your processes. So we can do this, we can do it. We can absolutely do it. And we can be, but if we can be transparent about it and how we go about generating images, did we get some help? But it's from that point, if you got concepts, amazing. How can your mind make them better? So there are a couple of tools on the real creative aspects of creating images. Obviously, we've spoken about Chat GPT, and it's been covered massively by everyone. Obviously, we can get market research from it. We can find out about different statistics that may be relevant to our product and our idea. Fantastic. Like, these are all really useful things to generate your thought leadership in certain topics. Brilliant. Absolutely, definitely use these things. But I guess one of the things that people might be asking is, what will generative AI offer me as a business? What are the real world uses? And one of the things that I'm going to look at, and I will probably look at it for this particular podcast. So podcasting is a very, very intense platform publication method. It involves a lot of work that you guys don't see, and I don't think you can quite grasp it until you've done it. So when you look at it from this perspective, we've got all the recording. You might have a couple of cameras set up recording you. You might also obviously get somebody else to do all of that work. But you've also got to generate all the show notes. You might also want to put it together and put it as part of a blog post. Turn it into shorts that you want to basically, promote on your various social media platforms. Side note, one of the past podcasts I did recently randomly just exploded on TikTok just for the creation of a short. From that, there was a slew of new inquiries and bits and pieces that off the back of it, people were really interested in the podcast, really interested in what we did. I don't know whether that then went on further affected the other person's business, but it was interesting to see how a short video exploded and went a little bit viral. So it had my typical views on TikTok are 300 to 400 views. This one got 25,000 over the space of 2 days, which was interesting. I'm not really a TikTok user, and I definitely don't get into into the dancing side of things. It's not really me. But yeah, it was really interesting to see. So where I'm going with this story is, I will think that the generative AI, the thing that will help the podcast. So if you don't know, there's a program called Descript I started using them 12 months ago or so when I was doing the podcast originally. They would do all the transcribing and I would turn that into blog posts. Fantastic. There was still a lot of work that needed to be done on it. I pulled it out and it was fantastic. There was a lot of information in the podcast. It did need a lot of work and a lot of input to turn it into usable blog posts that were SEO optimized. And for those of you that have never dived into SEO optimization, don't know what that is, there's a lot of work that goes into that too. So you can see how one thing can kind of spiral. But anyway, what Descriptive since done has to be able to, you can feed in video feeds. So I've got 2 videos currently running off this. Whether I would just use one feed, but either way, what is really interesting is that it will pull out 6, as many clips as you need and the best bits of your episodes to create short clips. Now, this is something that is almost a secondary process for me normally, because I would pull it out, I would sync the audio with the video. So you've got audio and video together, pull it into a different software. So pull it into Adobe Premiere Pro. From there, you would cut down, you would find the right bit of the podcast. Well, anyway, AI will now will find the best bits for me, will then take the video and the audio and basically produce me, 4 or 5 clips. That in itself is super useful. It'll also, you can then prompt it and get it to basically produce your blog post. That's another thing that I don't have to do. It's literally a click of a button and it outputs it. So it takes don't get me wrong, there's still going to be some editing to be done, but it's going to make it a whole lot easier. And that is a conversation I had actually just earlier on today. Is like somebody said, content is just a lot of work to put content together. Yes, it is. It's a huge amount of work to put content together. But if you can find a shortcut that doesn't kill your tone of voice, so obviously, it's going to be in my tone of voice because it's me talking to camera. It's me just having a conversation about things. It's the podcast. So that's really, really a really cool sort of, thing that's going to be, and I'm sure they must be investing money into it to make it even better. So level 1 is this, and level 2, what's going to happen after that? Now, just want to touch on this thing because I spotted an article by Adobe probably 2 months ago now. And they obviously, for you, those of you that know, we spoke about it just a minute ago. Adobe AI, the things that you can do with it, obviously, you can cut out backgrounds on images. They've integrated it pretty well into a few bits and pieces now. Lightroom allows you to create masks for editing photos really easily, so you can pick out things like your hair. So if you've done portrait shoot, you can pick out people's hair, you can edit the color of people's hair, you can retouch their skin really easily, you can cut out the backgrounds, you can isolate the person and basically do a lot of things to them. Depending on what sort of editing feel you want to give the photos, you can do that. It's actually a really good little piece of software. It's sped up processes a huge amount for people. And that's side of AI, we're not looking to really drastically change things and change people. We're just it's a process simplification, which is fantastic. Saving people time to allow them to do more good quality work with quicker results. Because at the end of the day, everybody's looking to save time. Because time is money, apparently. Which, is a conversation for another day. What else have Adobe done? So obviously, they've recently been working in the Photoshop app to be able to generate, do generative AI. And I've tested it, and I'm slightly unimpressed and slightly slightly underwhelmed by the results. But that's just me. I come from a very technical retouching background, have done a lot of very high-end retouching in the past, and results were kind of like, yeah, look, they're passable, but they're just not quite right. When you could generate a side of a photo that was missing, there'd be like a really obvious line going straight down the photo where it was like, well, that's not blended in really nicely. That's not good retouching. That's pretty poor, in fact. Illustrator, like, yeah, you can generate some icons and some graphics and bits and pieces that and recolor photos, recolor illustrations. There's not a huge amount of control yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Adobe is a thing. They are absolutely chasing Canva at the moment, with a few of their programs. Like Canva at the moment have put in so much and got so many resources to help them with the software side of things. Like they are steaming ahead, and Adobe are really trying hard to catch up. And they're always going to be slightly behind. But I think the big change that was coming, that's going to be for them, so Canva, they're like here, and like obviously you can't see my hand because this is a podcast, but it's like chest height. These guys are doing a really good job of helping small businesses grow and start out, getting them access to technical tools, design tools that they wouldn't normally have access to cheaply, and giving them the opportunity to be able to grow and start doing something. But there's a flaw. There's limited control over your brands. There's limited... it's just not quite as polished as it needs to be when it becomes something that is growing at a faster pace. Something that we typically need a design agency's input to do. And this is where I believe Adobe will jump ahead of Canva in that respect. So Canva down here for like semi-pro design quality, but like Adobe obviously is what the professionals use every day to day. That like they're tools of the trade. If you are growing a brand and you're going to create a brand that you want to last 10 to 15 years, you will use Adobe. I don't know any professional designers that have gone and built a brand straight in Canva. It'd be an interesting challenge. I think that'd be really kind of cool as like a weekend challenge. Maybe that's something we'll do one day. But yeah, this thing that Adobe are introducing, it's basically along the lines of, you will do all your design work, you will put together all your logos, you'll get all of that done. You may use AI to do all that. You'll work out your layout structure and your grid structure for all your various templates, bits and pieces that you basically need to control your brand. What you would typically do then is to put it into a set of brand guidelines. And from that's like your brand guidelines are like the thing that guides you, and every decision you make and everything you do, you look back. Well, after a while, you don't look back at it every day, but basically you use that as your day-to-day. This is how the brand looks. It controls literally every part of your brand. What Adobe are going to do is to make that an AI generated thing. So you'll get that first point, you'll get the brand guidelines, but you'll be able to feed it all the information that you would typically feed it. So all your color palettes, everything, all the fonts, you would specify all the size of fonts, how it's used, the gaps between fonts, and surroundings on. You'd go into the most minute details that day to day, people wouldn't notice it, but it just becomes synonymous with your brand. So you'll say, okay, so around images, I want to have a centimeter border, or I want to have a gutter that is between columns of text that is 6 mil wide. You'll specify all these things and set out parameters that your brand will stick to. What you'll then be able to do is say, okay, I haven't got a poster. Design me a poster, and it will do it, and it will get all the assets that it needs. It might have to source it. It might be able to that you have to feed it a new photo or something that, but it's going to basically start tying pieces together for you. So rather than, yes, you'll feed it a lot of information up front, and the input from a designer up front will be big, but in the long run, you won't have to go back to them as often. So from that perspective, what I expect to happen is that prices of branding and brand packages will go up, because people will be investing a lot of time up front to be able to help you control your brand. But after that, you'll have a self-sustaining brand identity that will be able to just be rolled out, and you'll be able to just call up and say, hey, I XYZ, add in a prompt. I need a pull-up banner, and it's got to have this text on it. Can you put it together? And it will draw from your tone of voice, your identity, and every other little aspect. It'll all tie in together, so there's a real cohesive look between your website. People coming off there, people will meet you in person. You'll have your business cards. Your business cards will be matching your pull-up banners, and everything, every little aspect will be controlled. And that is what branding is. We're creating that image, that brand image that's consistent and that people can, trust. And that is going to be worth its weight in gold. And do you know what? I'm actually not concerned about it, because I want to be at the forefront of helping people to control their brand. I'm not particularly interested in making and profiteering. I want people to grow. I want to see that happen. And if I can be at the forefront of helping people, be positioned, giving people that sort of transparency where they feel like, Martin has generated some of this with AI, and it's been incredible. His openness to sort of, thinking about the possibilities and how that can speed up things. And literally the one thing that I will say will come from that will be that consistency that I always bang on about will be a lot easier for people to maintain. And that is a really, really good thing. So what have we learned? AI is not coming for the designers' jobs just yet. No, it's not going to come for the designers' jobs. It's going to be like a fantastic tool to help designers and to help people. But it'll be a really useful thing for people to be able to command. But there's still going to be a huge amount of human input to help humanize brands. And that is like the thing to remember. AI won't replace that sort of emotional connection you get to working with real people. And but I think 2024, I literally think, we need let's keep our eye out. Let's see where it goes. At the moment, it's not coming I don't know when it's coming exactly, but I do think it's coming. There wouldn't be articles that have been published if it wasn't on the books and it wasn't coming. So yeah, that's the thing to look out for. In terms of other trends, look, I am gonna still put together my graphic design trends blog post, and you'll just have to have a read on that. Next episode, I have another guest on, so that's gonna be awesome. I always say I've got some really cool things sort of being talked about and being spoken. People I'm having chats to and getting them involved. So you're going to just have to take a seat, soak it up, and look forward to 2024 where we've got some more things happening. Catch you on the next episode.